The Fly Fifer Podcast. Let's talk. Your chat, your way. This episode is sponsored by J. Couriers. The people who care for your delivery.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, whenever you're watching this. It's yet another Fly Fifer podcast. It's been a while, actually, because I've been doing all this radio stuff that I've wore the t-shirt for today, because I thought, well, it's got the Fly Fifer and it's got the radio. So I'm on the radio every Tuesday, 9 to 11, Isle of Skye, Radio Skye, funnily enough. And it's been interesting. So podcasts have kind of took a wee bit of a backseat, just for a wee while, just till we get, you know, another sponsor, because the sponsor on this one runs out this month. And the radio station, I'm focusing a lot there because guess what? You get to play music with your guests, which makes things slightly different and slightly more exciting. But anyway, today, back to the podcast. So I've been asked by so many people for an update, and it is an update on the Luke Mitchell case that Alan and I covered maybe 3-4 times over the last, what would I say, 5 years or so, or something like that. And they've predominantly been with Dr. Sandra Lean, who's no longer part of it anymore. For whatever reasons, that's up to him. That's nothing to do with me. So we do have another guest today who is involved with the team and the process and everything like that. And I'll get her on camera now, just so she can explain who she is and what role she has now in the Luke Mitchell case, or certainly the campaign for the case. So this is Jen. Say hi, Jen.
Hello.
Hello. So, I mean, I have no questions. This is literally an update on the 3 podcasts that we've done already. Unfortunately, Alan's no longer doing the podcasting either, so it's new ground for me doing podcasts without him and stuff like that. So coming into this again, it's another podcast about the Luke Mitchell case where I absolutely have no real opinion on what's happened and why Sandra's not here, so that's nothing to do with me, and it's not anything I want to discuss today, really. I want to know where the case is at, where Luke's at, because I think, Jen, if I'm honest, he was supposed to be out, his sentence was up in April.
That's right.
That's April 25.
Yes.
Right, mm-hmm. So this is us into, 26th year of his incarceration, if you like. We've all got opinions of this. Loads of people. I get people meeting me all the time saying, oh, this lad did that lad did. The majority is, and it's very, very few that contact me ever and say, nah, you're wrong. It seems to be a YouTube troll type thing. Anyone I meet on the street, anyone I met in any other circumstances has always said, oh my God, that poor laddie, this, that poor laddie, that. I've yet to get anyone that will come on camera and say, no, I'm the opposition. This is why he's guilty. And I have asked for that. Every single person that's commented on the YouTube channel, every single person that's made a derogatory comment or whatever, I've invited them to sit down as we are now and make their case. No one comes, Jen, ever.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Yeah.
And in fact, when you talk about the trolls, I often look at, because you're right, I mean, this is something that comes up on YouTube all the time. People talk about it because they know they get a good reaction. Yeah. And then you look at all the comments and you'll find usually the same accounts coming out with the same things. The language is very similar. So I reckon it's actually, I would be surprised if it were more than 10 people that have this, they're sort of watching and throwing wee spanners in the works.
Or trying to, at least.
Certainly trying to.
There's a lot of user accounts where the name is user. That doesn't work.
Yes, and there's one account I think that I've seen a few times, and depending on the platform, if they're talking to someone like me, they won't say, well, there was DNA of Luke's on Jodi. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't do that on X, but they would do it on YouTube. And that's not true, because you wouldn't say it here. And yes, so there's a few accounts, and these are very, very unpleasant people. Mm. Yeah, definitely. I engaged with them for a wee while, and I thought, no, I'm wasting my time here. This is good.
My engagement is, come on the podcast, come and talk, come and tell me your point. Sit on a table like this if you've got such a big opinion. And some of them write novels. in these descriptions or these feedbacks. It's like a novel of, wow, that's taking me, I'm not a good reader anyway, and it's like, that's taking me 20 minutes to read that. Why not come and sit and talk about it? They just won't do it. You know, I've even offered to do it off camera. I've offered to blur. I've offered to change the voice, everything. And no, they will not come.
Yes, I found that there was one documentary by the BBC, Trials That Shocked Scotland, and it was about a 15-minute segment, and it was really, I don't want to say it was funny, but it kind of was funny because they're talking about Marilyn Manson things like that. And then at the end, there's a sort of little very quick disclaimer. Yeah. There was no evidence that he saw that. I thought, well, what was this even about? And people saying, well, you know, people have a go at circumstantial cases, but, you know, when you put it all together and you're going, okay, well, we'll do that then. and they don't. And the one, there's a chap that really doesn't like me. I assume it's a chap. I may be wrong. Shouldn't be sexist. Called What They Found. And I remember early on, because I was doing it as I think most sensible people would do, you know, you want to see what are the other side saying. And I remember looking at What They Found site. I haven't checked it recently, but certainly last time I looked, I think the first terrible thing Luke did was, well, when he was 7, he smashed his bike. Oh. You know, and you know, also the other thing he did that's really shocking is his duvet was on the floor. Wow. And I kind of thought to myself, if you're having to do that, you don't really have much of a case, do you?
Walk into any child's bedroom, any child, any teenager's bedroom, you'll see a lot more than a duvet on the floor. I have a teenage son, and walking into his room is like a minefield at times, you know?
Yeah, but he delivered it with a very special voice like this.
All right, okay.
So it makes it sound even worse.
Fair enough. So, Jen, I'm going to ask the question, because you and I have met before. Mm-hmm. We met a long time ago at one of the rallies in the city centre, up the high street, where I was going around. It was prior to me speaking to Sandra, and I was grabbing some people to get opinions out of the crowd rather than... And I played them. I think it was round about Sandra's, maybe her birthday or something like that, and it was a bit of well-wishing at the time. And, and you were one of the people, quite bizarre, you were one of the people that came up and said, yeah, I'll say this and say it. So I've got that recording somewhere. I might add it into this. I might put a wee pause and chuck it in what you said at the time. But it was very, very interesting, very apt, and very... it was a good point made at the time. You've probably forgot what you said, but...
It was something about the jury.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I'll stick it in here somewhere so that they can hear it.
I worked as a jury summoning officer down in England for 5 years. And we were summoning jurors for cases where families had waited up to sometimes 3 years to find out what had happened to their loved ones. We needed to make sure that the jurors were right for the case. There was no conflict of interest. This had to be quite carefully managed, and certainly in cases of prison suicides, we would have a long list of associations we wanted to make sure they did not have to the families or those involved in the case. Not only did I put those questions to the jurors prior, but they would then be heard again in court. The idea that in this case, in the case of Jodi Jones, that they failed even to do this in a case of this magnitude absolutely astounds me. And also, working at a coroner's office, that the body was released when it was, is incredible to me, knowing what goes into a court where you're establishing how, when and why somebody died. Yes, it beggars belief.
So you said something about the triage questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would ask them, do you know anyone who works for the prison service? And management, even within that. In the case of a prison suicide, you know, it would also be the health body that treated them. It would be the prison service. And often these are outsourced, so it would be you wouldn't say HMRC prisons, it would also be other private companies involved with that. There was quite a list. And sometimes you would have to give a name. Do you know this person? There'd be concerns because that would allow a juror to perhaps go away and find out. Who is this? What's this case about? I can find out what it is I've been summoned for. Now, we really didn't want to do that unless it was necessary. And we would leave it right up until the end to do that. It was a very, very big decision for a coroner's officer to make. What do we ask the jury? I was taken very seriously, and of course it was taken seriously because, as I say, loved ones have been waiting years to find out what happened to their loved one. They need closure. And if you fail in that, you failed justice, but you've also failed that family and the person who has passed away. And it's despicable.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
This was due to Scott Forbes, actually. He managed to get something in Private Eye. And I read it, and it all made absolute sense. It was a very, very short article, and that prompted me to look into it. I looked into it. I found out that there was an event happening in Edinburgh, very similar to the event where I met you. And I turned up, and I was really unsure of what I was doing, because I was expecting lots of people, and there was about 15 women, and I was awkward. I was thinking, well, this is a bit strange. I don't know what we're doing. And I was doing that bumbling thing. If you try to make yourself useful, and everyone was lovely, I should say. It was really lovely. But I was trying to engage people. That's what we were there to do. Yep. And because I was new to it, I really wanted to know what people thought. Because there was a part of me that was still going, this can't be right. This can't be right. So I met this couple. I approached this couple, and they were quite, well dressed, sort of well-to-do people. And they said, "Yes, we're from the area." I said, "Great, you can tell me what do you think?" And they said to me, "Don't go digging things up. I don't want to talk about it." And they became quite threatening. And then, in their demeanour, they didn't threaten me, but it wasn't a nice conversation. It was one of these conversations where you back away slowly. And I went to one of the other ladies there, a really nice lady who provides tablet. And
I've met her. Yes,
she's great.
Very, very nice tablet, actually.
It's the best tablet in Edinburgh. Because that couple, for all they had said to me, I don't want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Don't go digging things up. They stared at us. They just stared on the Royal Mile. And I thought, that's really unusual. And she said, "Oh, yeah, it happens all the time."
Right.
Now, I've engaged, I've been in campaigning in other ways, on things like Brexit and women's rights. And believe me, if you meet the other side and they think that you are wrong, they will tell you.
Yeah.
That's what people do. They kind of shut up and go away. And I have never, in all the years since, encountered anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I get frustrated.
Especially nowadays. You look at what's going on with the far left, far right, centre, whatever bit of the fence you want to be on. No one's quiet to anyone now.
No, I know.
So, yeah. Sorry, I've crack on.
Yeah, so I felt that, because I wrote a book a few years ago, my passion was actually children's literature and children's literacy. And I thought, this is something I can maybe do, because this is one of these things where people can really dig deep into it. And we know this because we see this online. People get invested in it, and they come up with conspiracy theories, and they've got their ideas about who did it. And, that's human beings, I think. But the trouble is, and if you find somebody who doesn't know anything about it, and they have that sense that I think most people would have of disbelief, they just see it's very hard for them to comprehend. I thought, okay, this is where I can come in. I can write about this, and I can reference, this is what I am basing this on. I'm referring to court transcripts. Sandra used to read a lot of the first few things I wrote. I said, I want this fact checked. I sent it to the team. I wanted to make sure that I could back up everything I said, but I could write it in such a way that it would make sense. Right. You didn't need to have that in-depth knowledge, and it just kind of bypassed that, because I think it was almost sometimes counterproductive. And so that's really how I came to be involved. It was just through writing about it. And also I thought, well, this is really interesting. Surely somebody in the Scottish media is going to cover it. No, I tried and I couldn't get anywhere. I wrote so many letters to MPs, to the Justice Secretary. And it was some like Labour, for example, Scottish Labour, I found that they almost couldn't engage with the concept of a miscarriage of justice. It was almost like they couldn't hear it. You try to make it absolutely clear, this is my case, and they go, "You're defending a murderer." You go, "No, but you think, well, this isn't working out." So I thought, this is we have to keep going on this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So keeping going, what has that got you doing now then? Or keeping going on the book, or what you were writing at the time? Sorry.
I published a teenage fiction book years ago. That's
right. Sorry.
That's separate. But I would like to write more. I think at the moment I would actually rather just actually record it, because I think you said to me, it's often easier to hear an audiobook.
Yeah.
And I thought about, well, maybe we should look at doing that.
Definitely.
And I wanted to write about it in all kinds of different ways. And there's one thing I wrote which was I think it was just about the absurdity of the case, and I'll be honest with you, I was kind of taking the piss because it was just so absurd. And then I had another piece where I was writing about...
There's hours of content there.
Oh, there is.
Hours and hours and hours of content, and not fictional. It's fact. There's factual content. And I mean, the audiobook side of it is something that, you know, for someone like me, that I'm not a good reader, dyslexia, whatever you want to badge, balloon, whatever you want to add to that. So audio, I think that would be a big hit for a lot. It would pull in a lot more other people that maybe can't sit and read black and white so easily. The other thing as well is that you've got a lot of recordings of Luke himself, which could be added into an audiobook, you know, which there's nothing more authentic than hearing it from the person themselves.
Yes, that's
so I like the idea. That's a great idea, actually. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, but at the moment, I mean, that's whatever we're doing, that is on hold, because the most important thing right now is the crowdfunder.
Yes, right.
So we've got like 10 days left, and that has admittedly slowed down. You know, there was
let's get into that now before people drop off. So let's get right up to the here and now. What's going on? Crowdfunder, start with that, seeing as you brought up.
Yes, so I mean, that is the most important thing. That is why I'm here today, to really kind of push the need to get this done. I mean, it's never been more important. There's a legal team there that are ready to go, and you know, they've Luke has great faith in this team, and that's asking a lot. You know, Luke has been let down by, you know, and when I say he's been let down by people, I mean often people who maybe had the best of intentions, but when anybody gets involved, they realise they're up against far more than they realised initially. So he has you know, great hopes. The team are very happy. Corin's not in the best of health, but you know, is optimistic. But that is the most important thing we can do, is we hit that target, and then they can review the files. We've also got there's been some discussion on social media about the DNA found on the knot used to tie Jodi's
So what's the fundraising for at the moment then?
That is for his legal team.
Purely for the legal team?
That is for his legal team.
Right. For the testing, the retesting, or is it just for the legal?
To take it back to court, and I think that they will be, you know, really reviewing the case also in more detail. So there's two things there. There's one, getting it back into court, and the other is the testing, and that is actually quite a complicated thing, but it's important because it's specific to the murder. You know, there's no way that whoever the DNA that isn't connected to the murder. You know, that is tying her hands with her trousers.
I think, just going back, I think you know, maybe I should have watched one of the podcasts again, but I'm sure don't they have a link for one of the other DNA samples that were taken? They know who it is. That sample that is, or am I completely barking up the wrong tree here?
Well, they have Stephen Kelly's DNA on the T-shirt, and they said...
And is that the one that went for the posh, intimate moment in the woods?
No, is that's James Faulkner. That's James Faulkner.
So there's two.
So there's two,
and locus, so if you like,
Yeah, so you've got, I mean, the condom that was, they found out it wasn't, couldn't tie that to Luke, so they thought, oh, well, that doesn't matter then, does it? Yeah. And he was found incidentally years later, when his DNA was put through, you know, something else. Stephen Kelly's, they said, oh, that must be on, that's due to a transfer through the wash or something. And that's nonsense.
I'm just going to say, how can that transfer in the wash? It can't be possible. It can't be. But I mean, there'll be a scientist out there that says, no, James, you're wrong, guaranteed. Well, there must be.
Well, scientists have said, I mean, because you know, the team have found that, you know, the people who would know about this would say, no, that's not, just by the way the transfer is.
Right.
You know, I think it's, they would say, no, that's not how that got there.
Right.
That's not, you know, so small that's it's on the day. So no.
Borrowed the top, been through the wash, and it's still there. Nah, it's not right, is it? No, I mean, we've all watched enough CSI and everything, or whatever, to think there's just so many things that just didn't sound right at all.
They don't sound plausible.
When you read it, when you hear it, it's just like, how can that happen? And the reason I do this is because I've got kids. And the reason I cover this is because I've got sons. You know, and any one of them could be grabbed at any time to be collared with something that's circumstantial. I mean, it's horrific to think.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, that's a good point, actually. Also has perhaps some bearing on my involvement, because I remember when I read that Private Eye article at that time, I mean, my daughter was 13, 14.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of friends around, you know, male and female. And I remember just sort of looking at these kids and, you know, at that age, particularly 13, 14, you know, you still have that, you're always going to feel protective. You know that you have to let them have more independence, and that's a little bit hard, but they are still kids.
Still kids, yeah.
They don't realise it.
Yeah.
But they
No, they're 13 coming on 30, some of them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Jen, just quickly, the crowdfunder, what's the immediate need there? Obviously money, but how can people find the crowdfunder? Where can they go to donate? What can they do to donate? What help can they give?
So it's on Crowd Justice. I mean, I hope we can put the link up there.
If you give me all the details, I'll stick it up.
So we'll make sure that, you know...
I'll make sure it's up at this point, yeah.
But yes, but go to Crowd Justice, Luke Mitchell, and you should find it easily. But we'll put the link up as well.
Yeah,
so it has slowed down. So we're I think last time I checked, I think we're needing about 7,000. And I was trying my best to get that out there, but it is difficult because I think anyone watching this, I really want you to understand that when I say we're up against it, campaigning, nobody will answer very, very simple questions that we have. Why we believe what we believe. We can state very plainly. I am here because I see absolutely no reason to think that Luke Mitchell did this. I think actually it's impossible for Luke Mitchell to have done this, and that's been my opinion for many years. And I have, as you indeed have, and many people have, invite challenge because
I can't see how, and I'm not a criminologist or anything, but how could that laddie have done that? It's just not possible.
Yeah. And so there are people in our judiciary who you would hope would give us an answer. Why do you think this? Why is this a safe conviction? An answer, years and years comes there, none. But they have the police behind them, they have the Crown behind them, and they have much of the media behind them. And we don't. So bear that in mind, and why that is so pressing. Sometimes it feels like shouting into the void.
Yep.
And I know, because I see the amount of people who believe as we do, there's a lot of people out there, but it's just getting that message out. If everybody who commented and, went into these great discussions about, the DNA or who they think did it, never mind that, but never mind that. But it's just, this is what we need to do now. We need to hit that target. So even if you are not in a position to donate, if you can just share it, because people are scared of sharing it, because what makes this, I think, such a unique miscarriage of justice is that this was such a witch hunt. You say that name and you look it up, and because that's what people are going to do, they're going to look it up and they will get this horrible information, and a lot of it is wrong. But think about Sam Poling and the BBC when she did that documentary 2007, and she debunked so much of that case, and that should have been a sea change, because this is a very respected journalist. She's and she wasn't kind necessarily. She was tough when she interviewed Corin Mitchell. She wasn't with kid gloves at all, and that should have changed the narrative, and it didn't. They would still report nonsense. That's
the thing with media, though. Media's changing now, though. It was probably up until even I want to say like post-COVID is where the media has changed, because people have seen them for what they are. The what do they call it? The MSN, the mainstream media. They are coming to an end, and it's guys like me, people like you, podcasters, YouTubers, TikTok, massive TikTok these days, TikTokers that are bringing all these things to the front now, and there has to be change. There has to be change going forward.
I get very, very frustrated by a few things. When people in the mainstream media, because we have some people who are sympathetic, and it's a little bit like you want to coax them. Yes, keep going, look at that. And I think somebody on Murder in a Small Town, he said, well, could this be a miscarriage of justice? And my response to that is, well, why don't you look? Let me see, could this be a miscarriage of justice? Well, given there's no evidence, given that you had a massive disclosure failure of somebody seen several times following Jodi, and then bearing in mind what they used in that court was people glimpsing from a car, and then to somebody who actually provides a very, very detailed description, and you don't disclose that. And then when the public start asking questions, this seems a bit weird, the police go, no, don't you worry, we've nothing to see here, and then start destroying the evidence. You think? That doesn't seem right to me. And if you think that's okay, I don't understand you.
No. And there's a question I was going to ask at the last 2 podcasts that I did, right? And I haven't. But I'm going to do it now because I feel not brave enough, and it's not anything to trip anybody up or anything like that, so don't worry. It's more me, in my opinion. So I look at this and you hear I've seen loads of podcasts with different characters over the years that have all pointed the finger at Joseph, right? And they point the finger at Joseph. I'm not, you're not, no one is at the moment, but I'm trying to figure out, is there potential DNA links there? Is that anything that's been discussed that I've missed? Am I missing that? Because I'm thinking for Joseph to be guilty of that, as the finger has been pointed by certain people, there would be DNA of his. And it's one of the things like, if there's no DNA of Luke's, there's no DNA of Joseph's. How can those people point the finger at Joseph? Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what am I barking? Am I completely off the plot here with that? Because correct me, because I've been driving all day. I told you that, right? So I'm just thinking. It came in my head, and it was something I'd thought about, and I never asked Sandra, and it's just something that I thought, well, I'll ask now.
Well,
but I want to be corrected on it.
Well, we did a podcast. Well, it wasn't necessarily a podcast, an interview a while ago, and YouTube took a bit of it down, and I don't know if because they were asking about police protecting people, and I kind of not sly way, but said, well, what about the Emma Caldwell case? Because there we're going to find out. We hope, but that would appear to be a very, very clear instance of the police protecting somebody, because you have such a lot of evidence. You had 300 allegations, I think, against him, and he admitted taking girls to the place where she was found dead. Another girl said he took me here. And he, this
is a completely different case. It's a completely different
case, but it was an example. But the reason I bring it up is because, as I say, it's an example of what it certainly appears to be police protecting individuals for reasons we do not know why, and also it happened around about the same time. Right. So it's linked like that. But remember that in Murder in a Small Town, they said that they looked at a number of suspects and they said there's someone we can't name.
Right.
But just incidentally, they didn't mention Joseph at all in that documentary, did they?
Aye. Right.
Just incidentally.
Put your own two and two together. Excuse me.
And so we could go down there, but I do have to be careful.
Yes, because we don't want to discuss anything that could hamper. Because I guarantee you, they troll these things, everyone, for every little nugget of information you can get. So the campaign is the big thing. Getting these funds together to get the new legal team in place is what is going on in terms of Luke at the moment. We know what's going on outside now. We know what user campaigners are trying to do, try to raise the funds to pay for the new legal team. So Luke, I know that he's recently been moved. That was discussed recently on TikTok. Someone said on TikTok that he had been moved from Shotts to, what do you call it? Greenock, yeah.
No, he was in Greenock. He was transferred there after Murder in a Small Town, as I understand it.
I remember that. Yeah, and then after the Sound of Silence conversations, he was transferred out again.
So the parole hearing went very well, incidentally.
So is he still in Shotts now then?
I believe he's still, he's still in Shotts.
Right, okay, I've picked up on something completely
people have
different.
been, that's again something that, you get a lot of people who say things very confidently, and it's maybe a bit of Chinese whispers there, but no, he's definitely still in Shotts. He had a parole hearing that went very, very well, and in fact it went so well that there was nothing they could really kind of, the media could kick him with, because of course last time the police had managed to bring up this report, which was based on the assumption of his guilt. So he'd had 21 years of psychiatric reports that would say, of sound mind measured, every year, say the same thing. And then the police, as he approaches, the end of his punishment period, go, well, we can't have that, can we? Well, it certainly seems that way. I must be careful, but it certainly seems that way, because they got a report, weren't happy with it, got someone else to rewrite it, and then, they were able to, it wasn't taken into account in the final parole hearing. But it's that thing of, as soon as you start to say, well, he's a sexual risk, which is what they'd wanted it to say, it's something that Daily Record can then use. So the parole hearing, as I say, there was nothing that came out of that they could attack him with. So of course they mention this report, which couldn't even be used because of the way it was gathered.
But see, if this is like the government, the parole board and everything, what the heck has the Daily Record got to do with that at this point in time? Just asking, just what are they involved with the parole board for? What? It's just strange to hear that in the same sentence. That the parole board, the Daily Record. Wait a minute, Daily Record. That's a rag. You know what I mean? That spouts a load of whatever.
Well,
so how are they involved in that little?
No, I don't think they're. I think they want to report it.
But
when you go onto Facebook or anything like that, sometimes I want to see what happens when the Daily Record do put these things out. Don't click on the Daily Record, folks, please. But I go and have a look, and I want to see the comments, and they are.
Other media groups are available.
Yeah, yes, please. But the only reason I would go there, because I don't think they get the clicks if I just look at the comments. I think I'm okay. I don't think they're benefiting anyway. I'm just looking at the comments, and there are always people saying he's innocent. Yeah. I work with him in there. I'm convinced he's innocent. My husband.
All the time.
It's just reams and reams of it. And then you probably see one of those trolls that thinks, you know what, I better throw something in the works.
I don't know. There's few of them. They're getting fewer and fewer, and there's a lot more people. I've been approached in the street by people saying, "Oh, I loved that. That was really good."
Yeah, but the reason I look at that is I think, well, come on, you must realise that people are not behind this anymore. But they have. But I mean, when I was writing a piece, I went through a lot of the media articles, and it was hard going. It was hard going. It was like drowning in raw sewage. It was really, really horrible. Oh. Just how it was bad enough to see that every day. These reports, but when you kind of reading it, so many articles which are just so abusive and horrible about somebody, about a child as well. I mean, it was hard going. I mean, so parole board that last one's gone well. He's still in shots. What's next, or what he's aware of that's next? Well, I mean, place your bets sometimes. I'm sure. I think what I have heard is that the prison are very supportive of him. I think he's in a good place. He sounds to be in a good place. He's very happy with his new team. One thing I will say, because we don't want to go into this too much, but I used to work with Sandra, and I think if you wanted to engineer a situation that caused arguments, it would be this, because it's a case that people put so much into, and they get attacked for getting involved, and Scott's been attacked, and Sandra's been attacked and threatened, and it does make it very, very difficult. So when Sandra stepped away, there was this concern about the people who were taking over. I would say, well, firstly, a lot of the people who were involved in the case a long time ago, the team Sandra had behind her, I'm very happy with how things have worked out. Any concerns, and I did have concerns, because, as I say, you work with somebody for a wee while. Sandra is my reference point. She's not there anymore. Yeah. Those concerns were completely unfounded. I found the new team very good to work with. And I've also found that they are much more involved with Luke and Corin, I think, because Sandra admits herself that her relationship with Corin, did break down.
Deteriorate, yeah.
It did, and whereas within the team you have people that support Corin, so I think she gets more emotional support, and I think that Luke has a stronger voice, and I think in a campaign like this, you need a team, you need a group of people, because we're up against, as I say, it's very, very stressful. So I am very happy with the team I'm working with. I think people will attack because we've had cases where what comments made about Jane Hamilton and things like that. But they're really attacking somebody you care about. It's very, very difficult, and I find that a lot of this has been inflated. When it comes down to it, it's just human beings being human beings. I think for the most part, Luke's very happy with the team. He's very happy with the legal team that's been identified that will get on board as soon as we've raised that money. So please, as I say, reiterate that again. Please donate. Yes, I don't want to, but that is the most important thing. So I am pleased, and I am very, very hopeful. I think Scott was very good, I think, at getting the media involved, and there was that concern that that was maybe dying down a bit. No, I don't think so. I think we're having to rebuild, and I think any period where you're rebuilding there's a period of quiet, but things are gearing up, and I'm very, very hopeful. Yeah,
and certainly what pushed me to crack on with this today, or ask for this to come or happen, an update anyway, was that I was on the Isle of Skye, and somebody come up to me and said, "Oh, is there any update on that Luke boy?" And I was like, "No, not yet." He was like, "Oh, I watched your podcast. That's so interesting." And I thought, well, we've got to get an update now. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and someone's asking me
about the.
Yes, his name's Ross. He'll no thank me for saying his second name, but his name's Ross. He's an Islander, and he's totally intrigued. And he's like, oh, I can't wait to watch the next one, and I've sent him a few links, go here, go there, and there's constant information, and I think he's probably following it now on TikTok and wherever else that is going out. I think it's mainly TikTok, isn't it? I don't know. I see this thing on TikTok all the time. It's like a boy from down south, or maybe he's an English boy that's up north. I don't know.
Have to tell me. I don't know this.
I'll show you once we get done with this today. Please. So, right, what's the wish list at the moment for you and the team? Where are we at? Because he's done that. The parole thing's done. It's a waiting game. The lad, he's waited 20 odd years. Mm-hmm. He's served his sentence.
He has served the punishment part.
Of his sentence. How long can he be held for now? Why is he still being held? Why is he not on the road to exit if he's served the punishment part? Is there an add-on? Why is he still inside, basically?
Well, why is he still inside? Well, you won't find any record that's indicated that he's behaved in a way that causes concern. I think he failed 2 drugs tests, but I think that was the stress he was under at that time. He was wanting, I think it was just a sleeping pill. It was just something to, as he put it, to get his head down. He couldn't sleep. And, he must have been in an awful, awful position because, I think you have so many false hopes. And his mum at that point was very, very unwell. And he just learned that the police had started to had set fire to his production. So, I can't imagine what that must have been like, but I can absolutely imagine that I would need something to help me. And I think he says in The Sound of Silence, that if you say my mental health is struggling, that could be a black mark against you. So, but going back to your question as to why he is where he is, well, you have these programs that you have to kind of follow to get, will you address your offending behaviour? No, because I have no offending behaviour to address. And this has been raised by a few people that this will keep people in jail far beyond their sentence.
How long can they be kept for asking for, if you've not done something and you've denied your guilt for 20 years, you're not about to say, it was me, to get out, are you? So why can't they be held if they've done their punishment? Why do you have to go through all these hoops?
It's a good question, and I mean I would
it's a system question. Why is the system putting people through that? You should be. I know very little of how prisons work. I've not been in them. Touch wood. Thankfully, won't be in one. But how can they not be? How can someone not be released once they've done the punishment part, the 20 years? So April there. Why was it not right, Mitchell? Go.
Again, I think you have to progress. A lot of people end up in Castle Huntley. So, if you've been in jail for, 20 years, you would expect that you were going to have... they denied that there was training for release, but my goodness, there should be.
Aye.
That's crazy. If you expect someone to thrive after that, you're just going to kick them out.
I know, a 14-year-old laddie, or 15, whenever he went inside, I can't remember exactly, it was 14 or 15. 15, he went inside. Aye, so 2025, that makes sense. And he's needing... slowly brought back to society because he's not learned a lot about society, being 15 when you went inside. So he needs to be taken out, day release, let's go here, let's go shopping. It's a very different world to when you left, and it's that sort of thing. It's like someone going into a coma.
As well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it occurs to me that, he's taken to... I'm trying to remember what I think it was a shopping centre or something. But you wouldn't, I think if you were to take Luke Mitchell now into, walk up a hill, he wouldn't manage it, not because he's not necessarily fit, just because he's not used to walking on uneven ground, I would imagine. So people say that they come out of jail, they don't have, because if you haven't had to use that for over 20 years,
right,
even the simplest things that you're just built into our muscle memory that we don't think about.
We don't think about it.
You do not. I mean, people have come out of jail after a long period, talk about finding it difficult to use door handles, which is a hard thing for us to imagine. But when you think about it, if everything is exactly the same, day after day, for decades, that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
Wow, good point, actually, Jen. Well made as well. How would you know? Yeah, there must be loads of things out here that we take for granted that someone in Luke's position will see for the first time.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I'm really hopeful for this team to overturn it, because I mean, a lot of the discussion and a lot of the bad blood that has been in this case for a wee while now, it involves around people having very different ideas about how we resolve this. And I'm very glad to say that they are not my decisions to make. I'm so glad that I'm not the ones, I'm happy to say I'm advocating for whatever Luke wants. You know, if he wanted to get out without the conviction being overturned, it's entirely up to him. But I want to see it. I want to see it overturned. I don't want him to be kind of just kicked out and then quietly forgotten about, because I think that would be very dangerous.
Right.
Because it's not freedom in the sense that we know it. You know, that's being monitored. That's life license. If he was exonerated and compensated, then you could really rebuild. I want that to happen. I would be very, very worried if it didn't.
That was a fear for a while, though, about being let out, exonerated, and then having to be compensated. And there was something that was said in that meeting where he would have to pay for his food and board out
Michael
of the
White.
Compensation.
Yes.
How bizarre is that?
Yeah, Michael White down in Wales. Yeah, he's
And charged food and board for 20
crazy,
years
absolutely
that
crazy.
he never asked to be there. That is mental in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah.
So I don't want this to be forgotten about. I worry that there are people who have a vested interest in wanting us to forget about it. We'll get rid of him quietly. I would be so concerned for him if that were the case.
Right,
I really
okay.
would. And Corin is not well. I really want her to see him exonerated.
On the
I know
outside.
that he's looked after. Because, there's another case. My gran knew a woman called Sally Clark. She was convicted of killing her babies, and it was caught death. She hadn't done it, but she... And when she got out, she really struggled, and she didn't survive. And my gran, I should say, knew her when she was a wee girl.
Right,
she worked with her mum. But I remember, this is really tough for people.
Horrific,
You want to be absolutely, when you get out, you want to be protected and have the support network that you really, really need, and that's something you want to make sure that he has.
I mean, the legal system hasn't really got much better over the years when you think to the fact that a post or a tweet can see you get lifted and put inside anyway.
Well, I know.
I mean, how crazy is the world becoming? How crazy is the media becoming? Or the system becoming?
But also, as us as Scots, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, and up until quite recently, I thought, we have the best legal system in the world. I never had a loved one of mine being pulled into it. Didn't have any interaction with it, but it was brilliant. That was what I was told, and I believed that. I really did. And I find it terrifying now, I really do. I
told the truth on something in the last 4 years. I told the truth, 100% the truth. But what did I do? Me telling the truth concluded with the person making the accusation, and I got done for honesty. How about that? How weird and wild is that? And corroboration or something. I corroborated by telling the truth of what I did. And I still ended up getting done.
I think it's got worse. I think in Scotland it's got a hell of a lot worse as well. There's another case back in the 90s of a 15-year-old girl stabbed a 16-year-old girl in the school playground. She took a knife from home and she killed her. And she served less than 9 years.
Wow.
And at the time, and we've got to remember this was before devolution, judges said, well, we can't hold a child indefinitely. And so she was, rehabilitation for a child back then mattered.
Right.
And that's not the case anymore. That's not becoming more compassionate. That's becoming less. I mean, if you couldn't, back in the 90s, do that to a 15-year-old girl, why can you do this now in 2025 to somebody, who was convicted of committing that crime at 14?
Yeah.
Never mind the fact that there's no evidence they did it.
Aye.
But this is not becoming kinder and more compassionate. I don't know what's going on, but... Yeah.
So... I mean, if we're doing this to inform people of what's going on, what I know we've discussed the crowdfunder and everything like that. We've got a legal team. They're hopefully going to bring this to the courts again to get things re-examined and what have you. What is the information for people, though? What do we want to get out of this podcast today? What does the team want out of you making the effort to come here and sit and talk? What are we hoping to get from this?
Well, educating the public was up until the crowdfund came about the most important thing that I could do. I really wanted to counter what I know was a huge disinformation campaign. And as I say, when respected individuals refer to, uncover this, and the media just carries on as though that did not happen, they just keep regurgitating the same lies. When we say that there is no evidence that Luke Mitchell did this, this is the case. You can look at court documents. About when was it? A wee while ago, I created a timeline so you could see what happened after each documentary. So Sam Polling's documentary with the BBC, what happens after that? Well, Jodi's mother attacks Luke's mother, and she attacks her during the day. It's at lunchtime, ahead of the appeal. And I wanted people to see that this is something that's done ahead of the appeal.
Right.
This isn't something that has been sparked by, some kind of interaction. This appears to be the result of an appeal. And then Joe Jones turns up at a doorstep, threatens Sandra, and then you have another documentary, and then the police destroy things. I want the public to see that, on the one hand, you have the likes of you and I saying we want absolute transparency. But what we're seeing, and whenever a documentary is made, whenever anything happens, what you have is arson attacks, you have destruction of evidence, when you have clear, very, very serious disclosure failures. And Alan Jameson said that the disclosure regime in Scotland is the worst in the civilised world. So quite a claim, given that he works, all over the world. When we see how our courts respond to these things and how our media responds, you have to see that this is a very, very serious thing. And we don't have... The most power we have comes from public awareness, and that's what we really have to do. So yes, do your research, but be careful when you do. Because you can refer to court documents that will say, very clearly, black and white, this was a purely circumstantial case, whereas newspapers will sort of twist that
slightly. We're
countering that, and that's what I really, really want to do, is to kind of make sure that there's two ways you can go with this when you get involved with it. You can either drill down and get into the detail, but then that kind of confuses anybody who you really want the public to know, you really want a complete awakening. And actually, the best way of doing that is asking your representatives, where is the evidence? Why did you think there was a missing knife? On what basis was there a missing knife? Because I believe that was nonsense. I can see no evidence of that whatsoever. And when you look at the transcripts, they're readily available for anyone to see, and people will say things like, he had a parka jacket. And then you actually read the transcripts and you see that the police... this is the other thing I think that maybe doesn't get mentioned enough, is the police lied to the people they were interviewing. They lied and lied and lied. They said to Luke's brother, your mum's car was parked at the end of the road where Jodi was found. That's a lie. Yeah. And he's confused. He's struggling to remember. And the police are giving him information that is not true. And the police do this again and again. Your brother described every injury on that girl's body. That's not true. But that's what they're telling him. As
are they doing that
to
try and trip him up into thinking that there was your brother must have told you something?
Well, that's it, yes. Yeah. And they're saying to him, we cannot lie to you. And he's terrified. And, And astonishingly, when that is raised in court, because the reason I know that is because it was raised by Donald Finlay in court, judge thinks, that's fine. Or the judges kind of, not the judges, at the end of the trial, the police say, well, there are things we could learn. They talk about it as though it's, a kind of little point on an appraisal.
Aye.
And that's crazy. So They lie to Luke. They say to him, you're wearing your Murder Dolls T-shirt that night. We've got hundreds of witnesses that say that's not true. We have loads of witnesses see you wearing your army shirt. That's not true. They just keep lying, and there seems to be no procedure to say, well, how can this? If you're getting statements from people based on the lies the police tell, those statements are meaningless. They don't mean anything. Yeah. And so when you look into it, the actual, court transcripts, it's a shock.
There's definitely funny things that the granny did as well.
Oh, yeah.
At the time, like telling the moped boys not to go forward for, 5 days or something like that before they come forward?
5 days, yes, and obviously don't forget.
And then there was someone else burning stuff in the village that was nothing to do with Luke in the parka jacket or anything being burnt out of their place.
Yes, in the Sky interview with James Matthews, he's asked about that. Did you burn clothes? And he said, no, that wasn't us. That was someone else. And then that's at the trial denied. No one was burning clothes. And then when they did start to destroy evidence, they found traces of burnt clothes taken from a dress right where they thought. So again, it's a bit like the sighting of the stocky man following Jodi that conveniently wasn't disclosed. Yes, clothes were burnt.
Yeah. The stocky man was spoke about, but he wasn't identified in court either, or he wasn't able to be identified.
Yes. When you're dealing with a disinformation campaign, I'm always mindful that people are going to do a quick look. They're going to take a cursory glance, and it bothers me what they may see. But as I say, we have been asking questions. The right questions to ask. Really simple. You have tortured this family. Can you justify it? Can you justify what you've done? And they can't. You have to be scared of that. And I don't really want to live in a world where somebody that can be done to somebody, the worst thing imaginable, and nobody helps. Because if this could happen to, it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, and see the destroying of evidence. Now, something I don't think we made clear at the last one that I did was the destroying of evidence from the case and Luke still being inside. Would that have naturally got destroyed anyway for any case like that's gone so many years? So forget it's Luke at the moment. So would that have naturally have happened? Would that have been a destruction of evidence no matter whose case it was?
Yes, because they have time limits in any kind of archive. Any court archive will have a natural time, but this was not. This was early,
right? And
so, in an archive that is managed in that way, we keep, because like with GDPR, we have to keep records for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
This was destroyed because they wanted to. There's no question of this being procedural.
Someone clearly made a decision.
Someone made a decision. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
And I take it there's no answer on who made that decision.
Well, it's a bit like coming back to when I said the people in the media who frustrate me because you ask them, well, could this be a miscarriage of justice? And and it's, as I say, it's the most obvious miscarriage of justice I can imagine.
Yeah.
When it comes to the destruction of the evidence, that was raised in Parliament. Can't remember the guy's name, but somebody raised it, and it may as well have not bothered.
Right.
You see that lack of accountability. Yes, it was raised in Parliament. Oh, I'm sure they're sorry. All right then.
Just as easy as that, brushed under the carpet.
That's not a quote, but that may as well.
As good as that. Yeah. I think we've all heard their quotes over the years, Jen, for sure. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what more can we discuss about it today? What points do you want to get across, or is there anything you want to, particularly, is there a road you want to go, particularly with this? Is there anything you need to get out, said? Well,
as I say, reiterate it, I can't say it enough about the crowdfunder, and we've got 10 days on that. I want to reiterate that, I feel that Luke is far more involved in the campaigning at the moment. When I was working with Sandra, I didn't really have much of a sense of, how Luke was doing. I feel that's opened up, and I think everyone's a lot happier for it. I do feel I have to counter some of the things that have been said recently, because, as I say, there's a lot of bad blood. I say Luke is always. I've had, I think, one message from him. It's always, very, very gracious. When I've seen other messages from him, and he seems to be doing really well. So just. But just keep asking questions, of anybody who. I think writing to your MP is a good idea as well. Yep. But as I say, the crowdfunder is the most important thing.
Most important thing right now. So what's next then? Say we get the money. The money's raised. What's next? What happens? Where do we go?
I really hope this goes to the High Court in London. That had been tried before and it was blocked.
Right.
I can't. That's my hope. That's my hope. Getting it back into court. My ultimate hope is that it does end up in the High Court. But if we can get it back in, I think. Right. The hope is high there now, because people say to us that, basically every single process that would protect a child going through the courts didn't seem to work in Luke's case. We know now that, we know it's wrong to deprive a child of legal representation. We know that. Right. We have how these statements were gathered. We know about the disclosure failures. It seems to me that when they've appealed in the past, they seem to be taking these things in isolation, rather than taking them all together and going, well, when you put it all together, this is a mess. Yeah. This is a circus. I think now you're in a really good position to go forward, because you know that pretty much everything that was done in that trial was wrong. So I hear messages from people about that.
So how many appeals is that now anyway?
Oh, I can't remember how many. I mean, I think...
is it 3?
I think it must be about 3. And
so this would be the 3rd or the 4th? I'm trying to think myself.
It would be, I think, the 4th.
4th appeal, and looking to take that to the High Court in London.
I hope.
What about the differences in law, though? What about the differences, Scottish law, English law? Is there any?
Well, think about the case with women's rights. Right. That was a case where that was taken to the High Court, and don't forget that. I mean, however you sit on the independence argument, Peter Cadder, the Cadder ruling, that said that you should not have, you should be denied legal representation, that was done in the High Court.
Right,
that had to go out of Scotland to be sorted. And I don't think that's the only thing. I think there's a few things in Scotland where, that have been righted in that way. And that's kind of painful. I know that when it came to the women's rights, the self-ID bill, I remember I heard Joanna Cherry say that she thought that in the High Court they would scrutinise the bill more than they would in Edinburgh.
In Edinburgh, yeah.
And as a member of the SNP, that doesn't. She said, that if that doesn't sound too disloyal, but it proved to be true. They will scrutinise the bill. And when it came to Peter Cadder, those 3 judges said, "I'm amazed that you thought this was okay, that you could deny legal representation." So that's precisely why I want to see it there again.
Right. So listen, I think we're about an hour into this, so not that time matters realistically, but I think we've kind of covered a lot of things. I'd be interested to ask, but I don't want there to be any. I don't want to say anything or you say anything that could cause any. Is there? I'll ask the question. If there's no comment to that, there's no comment to that. Is there any new evidence uncovered, or is that a case of there potentially could be once the testing's done again? So is there any new evidence to come to light that would, warrant that appeal?
I think they're focusing on the DNA found on the knot of the trousers.
Right, okay.
It could be tested. They think they know that that's male DNA.
Yeah.
So getting that retested.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's new evidence. We've known about that for a wee while.
Right,
so
okay,
I don't think that's
because you hear that. I've heard in podcasts in the past that there has to be new evidence for a new appeal. And if it's appealing on old evidence that's already been appealed on, they'll know. I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
They make it very difficult. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
they
true.
make it difficult for that. Yeah. So what a recap then from you? A recap on, I don't know what's needed.
So recap. New team working for Luke is doing very well, supporting him,
Good
supporting
point.
Corin.
Where do we find the new team if someone wants to get in touch or find information from them?
Oh yeah, so the Luke Mitchell campaign, they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter or X.
Right. What's the handles? Do you know them all, or do we need to find them?
Oh goodness, no. I should. We'll put up the links.
I'm pretty sure if you search Luke Mitchell on Facebook, you get an awful lot, but there'll be the right ones and the wrong ones to go to. So, I've mentioned somebody on TikTok today that you don't know about. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. We get the right handles. So
it's the Luke Mitchell campaign.
The Luke Mitchell campaign on Facebook, on Instagram.
And on X,
On X as well, right. And they'll find you there, I would imagine, as well.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Crowdfunder, where is that predominantly? Where's the best place for the Crowdfunder?
I think the Crowdfunder website, but we've got links. On my
so
my website.
Crowdfunder website, right? Okay.
So if you go to jmgale.com,
and
you've got the first thing you'll find is the media timeline that I put up, and the first thing on there is the link to the Crowdfunder. So so that is one way you can find it.
We've said in this this podcast that there's 10 days left. By the time I get this out, there is 5 days left. Okay, because I'm down here for a few days. Time I edit this and put it out, we're 5 days. Okay, I'll point like that because I'll put a wee thing there that'll direct you where to go, so you've seen it. Jen, I think we should wrap it up. I kind of want to talk more, but it's like whether it's. I think let's call it a day on today.
Well, thank you so much for actually being able to talk about this.
I love it. I'm intrigued. As is the people that come up to me and say to me, "Oh, that was good. I want to see this. I want to see that. Is there any more information?" And that's what's prompted me to be here today. Was I have been getting approached by people asking for more information. Podcasters, there's lots of them covering the case. I'm saying to them all, donate some money. I don't get paid, but you guys do on YouTube. So donate some money to this case. If I had anything, I would give it all. I think I've seen some of the podcasters with thousands and thousands and thousands of views where they're getting AdSense for that. I sadly don't. And if I did, I would donate it all. Trust me.
Thank you.
So you guys should. Anyway, Jen.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.